You're listening to Broncos for Breakfast with Nick Kendell and Scott Kennedy.
There we go. Jeremy, leading off. The first thing everybody will hear, besides me talking to myself, getting the podcast going. Please no one get hurt during this podcast. Only hurt feelings, Jeremy. That's the only thing.
If I dump my coffee, it's really, really hot. We're going to have a McDonald's situation, but no one to sue but me. And I think that should be about it, unless my cat comes in and jumps in my lap, 17 pounds of claws that can do some damage. It's Nick, it's upsetting. It really is. I watched games. I was listening to the game, but I didn't see it live, and we'll watch it after the fact. And I hate watching games when there's about to be a big injury.
Yep.
It's just you're like, here it comes. He goes down, he holds his knee, and it's sickening. You feel sick to your stomach when you're just watching it, and I feel so bad for Hamler. It's like, who's next? These guys have to be walking around like they're in a horror movie right now.
It really sucks, and it takes the wind out of the sails for a team that should be riding really high right now. I mean, they're still riding high, and luckily, most of these injuries, the guys are coming back. It sounds like the only season-ending injuries they've had have been Josie Jewell and now KJ Hamler, which we'll get into today. But still, like, these guys are coming back. Are they going to be a shell of themselves? Like, what's it going to look like? But that's football. That's why you build.
That's 53. 2 starters. Who else has lost 2 starters for the season in the first 3 weeks? That's.
The Ravens and the Colts lost a lot, like, before the season even started.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Broncos right now, they're with like 6 or 7, if you consider KJ Hamler a starter, of their starters have been injured in 3 weeks. So it's insane. It's really unfortunate. The fact that if this team can come out of this next 5-game stretch with 3 wins, heck, even 2 wins, that's an accomplishment. And they took care of business being 3-0. So it's not the biggest deal if they do go 2-5 in these next few games. They're still right in the playoff hunt, but it's the injuries have sucked. We'll get into it a little bit more. Let's say hello to Dave Glassman coming in with the hearts here, orange and then blue over on Facebook. Thanks, Dave. And also we got him over on YouTube as well. So thanks, Dave, very much. We've also got Mark Lindemode. Good morning, Broncos family. Good morning to you, Mark. EJ's in the house. Good to see you, EJ. Good morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos country. We have the
real Pepe Silva. Actually, it would probably be Real Pepe Silvia.
Yeah, and he's your avatar there, your picture there is a little scary. I'm not sure what's going on, but he says, I have arrived, and and good morning. Good to see you, Pepe. Also, we got Chase Wellner in the house. Morning, Nick and Scott. Did all your teams win this weekend?
No.
Did Auburn lose to Georgia State?
No, they ended up winning that game, but I'm more concerned about when it comes to fandom, I'm about soccer.
Oh, so, they lost to...
Yeah, so football became a job 10 years ago. Soccer is where my fandom is, and Chelsea lost to City and Atlanta United lost. Yeah. They look terrible. So,
well, I'm riding high. My Iowa Hawkeyes are 4-0, number 5 in the country. They did get jumped by Penn State, but they have a big game at Maryland this weekend on Friday Night Football, so that'll be great. My St. Louis Cardinals, 16 games in a row, pretty insane. And
that's crazy.
Broncos 3-0. So I'm riding high right now, man. I'm enjoying the wave. No, it's inevitably going to come crashing down, but just ride as long as you can.
Importantly, my kids played 2 games. They won both of theirs. So
there we go.
That's the important part. That's where my fandom actually is.
There we go. And also, as you always say, I'm cheering for me. But DBA coming in. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you, DBA. US Dave. Buenos dias. Good to see you. We got John D. Oh, the thing jumped on me. Let's get EJ. Trinity Benson's trade made no sense at the time. Why trade before the season even begins? Hopefully Peyton learned not to trade before the season again. We're going to get into the Trinity Benson trade as well, I'm sure. But I'm not as upset about it as other people. And I've went back and watched Trinity Benson on the Lions games, and he's been fine. But you got a 5th-round pick for him, and maybe David Moore is just as good of a player, and you pick them up off a practice squad. So we'll see how Trinity Benson's career plays out. But I think there were ample wide receivers of close enough quality that you were able to get another shot in the draft, another cost-controlled player. That's fine with me. John D. Herrera, good morning. Great to be 3-0, but man, going to miss our receiver core, speedy recovery. Yeah, man, I'm bummed about KJ Hamler. Ken Booker, good morning. At the next meet and greet, you guys should bring breakfast, maybe coffee. Breakfast is a little expensive for you guys. I mean, unless you guys want kegs and eggs. That's what we grew up on in Iowa City, going to the football games. A bunch of bacon, some eggs, and a keg. That's a good time. I miss the undergrad a little bit sometimes. Just the glory days, right?
Listen up, Broncos country. TickPick should be your first choice to buy football tickets because they save fans money by never charging any service fees ever. TickPick is the exclusive ticketing partner for the Huddle Up podcast and the Blue Wire Network.
Denver Broncos football is finally back, and there's no need to exhaust yourself searching all over the internet to find Broncos tickets anymore, because TickPick, that's TickPick, is the original no-fee ticket site and the only one you'll ever need as your go-to for all NFL tickets. TickPick got rid of all those awful service fees that the other ticket sites charge, which lets them guarantee the best prices on all of their NFL tickets. Don't believe it? If you can find better prices for the same seats on another ticket site, TickPick will give you 110% of the difference in the purchase price.
That's right, guys. When we were searching for tickets for the MHH meet and greet for Week 3 at home, Broncos versus Jets, TickPick had us locked down. So visit tickpick.com/huddle today and use the promo code HUDDLE to save $10 on your first order of Broncos tickets.
But let's get into it here before we get off too far. This is obviously Broncos for Breakfast. You guys can follow Scott and myself on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Kendell MHH. Follow us also at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you're at Facebook, join us also at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Become a supporter. Also join us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. And YouTube folks, please subscribe, like, and share. Doing so can help us a heck of a lot, and it costs you nothing. I know there's a lot of other good Broncos content out there, but we like to think that we're doing it as good as anybody. And your support could be just subscribing, liking, and sharing this channel. That does us a heck of a lot of good, and we really appreciate it. Also, while you're doing that over on YouTube, go to Scott's channel, youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. We've been coming at you live 1 or 2 mornings a week and talking a little bit of just draft, NFL in general, and some Falcons. So it's been fun. We're keeping the ball rolling, and like I said, plenty of coffee. And any super chats come in? Oh yeah, Scott. I know you've been working the producing angle here. What's going on with the this month's giveaway? I guess.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that's okay. I do that at night. But the number for who are we giving away? Justin Simmons. It's Justin Simmons, right? Mm-hmm. It was Von Miller last time. Justin Simmons jersey. I think we're at 90% of goal on Facebook. I keep track of the movers and shakers on YouTube, and some of the questions I get, does it matter which podcast that you're on that you donate to? No, as long as you're doing it on the Facebook page, Facebook keeps track of it on there. It doesn't matter which podcast. So we appreciate when you come to ours, just to let other people know, hey, we're in business too. So yeah, I've been doing a lot. I was on Saturday night for you while you were taking care of some family business of sorts, and probably getting sick of me by now. Jeez. Nah,
I'm enjoying this. This has been a lot of fun. We've been doing it since April now. But it's been a great time. So yeah, guys, get in your super chats and your stars on Facebook, and the top 5 super chat givers will get a chance to, on YouTube, will get a chance to win that Justin Simmons jersey, and 500 minimum stars gets you a chance to be in the raffle for that Justin Simmons jersey. And Justin Simmons, he's a lot of people will poke fun at Pro Football Focus's grades. I mean, they probably should. Did you see that Jalen Hurts came out of yesterday's game with a higher PFF grade than Dak Prescott? What are we doing?
No,
what are we doing?
Said, that stuff is so subjective. I always say it's nice to use those as a guide. When I do rankings, do you think coaches actually look at your rankings? Yes, I know they do. They'd be stupid not to. Yeah. Doesn't mean that that's how their board is, but if you've got a limited amount of time to do things, I know that if I look at 20 guys, I might not agree with the order, but you probably got the right 20, give or take, that I can look at. And I thought Elijah Vera Tucker was really good 2 weeks ago. I was like, wow, I was really impressed. And then I found, and then some people are saying he's one of the worst graded guys on the team. I'm like, what? Okay, well, I disagree. And when I watched him for the most part this week against the Broncos, I thought he was pretty good. And not just for a rookie, but pretty good overall. He had his hands full. I thought Mike Purcell played really well.
Yeah, he did.
Inside at nose guard, probably had his best game so far, which probably means he's starting to get healthy.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you there. The team, Broncos took care of business, right? There's not much more you can say. They absolutely whipped up on the Jets. That was the most convincing victory I've seen this season. And Peter Middleton coming in with the stars, talking about convincing. He says stars like these with the dollar signs, the thinking, and the wink tongue out face.
Well, probably tells more about how I feel because I thought that was the puke emoji the first time I saw it.
No, it looks like it's so small, but I think those are the dollar sign eyes and the dollar sign tongue.
Dave came in earlier. It was the hearts and stars, stars of our heart.
Oh, thanks so much, Dave, and thanks so much, Peter Middleton, and getting your chance to get within that Justin Simmons jersey, and also keeping the lights on for the morning show. Obviously, Huddle Up Pod is the flagship program, and they do big business. But we like to think the little guys here bringing good content, and we appreciate you guys joining us here. But yeah, no, let's talk a little bit. KJ Hamler, I want to get into that because I think it really changes the complexion of this offense going forward in a negative way, and I'm not sure exactly how the Broncos are going to outright replace him if they can at all. And I don't think it only has implications on this season. Unfortunately, I think it has implications for going forward, given Vic Fangio's words of KJ Hamler tore his ACL and some other stuff. That some other stuff is doing some heavy lifting, and that scares the absolute bleep out of me.
Well, and it's not it's also the style of receiver that he is. We talked about Cortland Sutton coming back a little bit more because he's a bigger receiver and quickness isn't going to be his main asset. But when you're talking about a smaller guy, if he loses half a step could be a big difference in, at this level. We're talking about fine margins here. I don't worry so much about the Broncos moving forward, except for, you're starting to get into depth concerns.
Yeah.
You're just fine to be able to go out there with, two big wide receivers and a tight end in the middle, or a double tight set with two big receivers. Now it's when you were gone, we had a conversation Saturday night about who is Tim Patrick really going to be worth a ton of money? I think y'all are overselling him based on his production. Now it's his chance.
Yeah.
Now's his chance. Now he's got a chance to put up several 100-yard games where you start looking at the numbers, and he's coming in and becomes a key guy. Because before that, I don't know that was ever going to happen, where he's ever going to get more than 2 or 3 catches a game, 40, 50 yards here, maybe the odd 70-yard game. He goes into a free agency, and you're looking at his stats like, this guy's never had more than 600-700 yards in a season. He only did that once. Why would anybody pay him 8 figures in a contract? He's got the talent. Now it's the time for him to it's really his time to shine. And talking about coming back with an injury and Sutton and trusting his knee, and the mental aspect of coming back from that, not just the physical. Late in the second quarter, I saw him catch like almost a slant, and he cut in. It was down towards the goal line. He cut back in towards the middle and cut once, cut twice, and then turned it back upfield. I'm like, all right, he's back. He feels good about his knee. Otherwise, you're basically diving for yardage right there and not trying to make those moves. So for me, that was the clearest indication yet that Cortland Sutton is really, really close to 100%, if not 100%. It made me feel good, especially knowing what was going on with Hamler.
Yeah, no, Cortland Sutton's looked good. Tim Patrick had a heck of a game. He might have been the MVP. He's so good at tracking the football and putting his body in a position where he uses that 6'5" frame where only he can get it and then extend. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him and Sutton this offseason. But I know he came in to the NFL with injury concerns, but he's been Mr. Consistent the last 2 seasons. And we're really happy to have him right now. I know there's some talk, maybe you can flip Tim Patrick for a 3 or a 2. And if somebody offered that, you'd have to think about it long and hard. Didn't know it hurts you this season, but I mean, those are valuable chips for like the next 4 years. But I'm really glad that Tim Patrick's here right now, and he's been phenomenal. We got John D. Herrera. Go ahead.
We've talked about, and we were going to need it. If the Broncos were going to need it, if they're going to make a run, is a little luck with the injury. Well, the injury has been completely unlucky, but now the depth, you're using your depth. You can't go any farther than this. Your depth is almost gone in several positions, because now you're dipping into that depth, and now we're starting to get towards the teeth of the schedule.
Yeah, it's the Broncos are in a good position. Maybe even playing with a little bit of house money, being 3-0 at this point with 7 teams making the playoffs in the AFC. But the AFC West, man, is a monster. I don't know have you gone back and watched the Chiefs-Chargers game yet?
I haven't. I've watched basically parts of 4 different NFL games.
Okay.
Broncos, Falcons, Cowboys, and whoever played early, I've already forgotten.
Well, man, Justin Herbert's the truth. And my God, I mean, he's so aesthetically pleasing too, to watch play. He's phenomenal. It's really upsetting. I love him actually. And it's upsetting to me. We got John coming in. Do you think the Broncos sign another wide receiver to the roster other than Moore, just in case we get more thin on the roster? Hopefully no more injuries. I think I have a multi-part answer here for you, John. And are these stars or is this just a good question?
They're stars. They are stars. Thank you for the stars.
I love you, John. God bless you. That's awesome. Thank you so much. So I think this is multifaceted, this answer here. So first you bring in Moore. There's also talk that they're going to bring up Seth Williams as well. Your guy, Scott, getting a chance. He didn't really impress in.
We'll see. He's a different. He's not that type of receiver, but again, in the slot, it's almost like the guard and tackle debate. Mm-hmm. If you can play tackle, you can play guard. If you can play guard, it doesn't necessarily mean you can play tackle. If you can play outside, you can play inside. But if you can play inside, doesn't necessarily mean you can play outside. Yeah. So you can drop a big receiver in the slot. You can. In fact, some of the best receivers in history, you move them into the slot to try and free them up some. So typically there's a little bit more, you want a quicker type guy in there, but you can put a big receiver in the slot. That's not a problem.
I mean, Alan Lazard's made a career of it in Green Bay so far. So, I think that you do have a chance where you see a David Moore get a run first. He's more of a speed receiver. And we need to see how we do these next 3 games approaching the trade deadline. And we're going to have more information on how this team looks, the direction they are. Like if they're 3-3, or I think the trade deadline's after week 6, but let's say they're 3-3, it's then maybe you're not making a move. But let's say you're 5-1 and you're not as impressed with David Moore and you have more information at that point of Jerry Jeudy's injury as well. Mm-hmm. Then you can reevaluate and sit back and be like, okay, we have this extra capital for trading Trinity Benson. Maybe we flip that 5th round pick back around and bring in a different wide receiver to this team. But right now, I think you're probably just going to make do with what you have. And once you gather more information about how guys are looking and how Jerry Jeudy is progressing, then you can make a more informed decision when that deadline's pressing up on you.
And Peter's coming back with another set of stars saying Patrick to be signed early. I would now. I'd still gamble on him. I'd take a gamble on him and see how he does over the next 3 or 4 weeks, where he's going to be a very key member of this team, because it's going to be hard to spread the ball around 11 or 12 receivers when you've only got 7 healthy. So, including your backs. So there should be a more concentrated area of touches. There should be more production from these guys. So let's see how it goes. But going back to this is a name I saw bounce around last night in John Brown. The only thing I have to say about John Brown is the Falcons brought him in for a workout last week and didn't sign him. If he's not good enough for the Falcons wide receiving core, you don't want him. That's all I can say about Jim Brown. I know nothing else, but to me, that is, trust your own evaluations, blah, blah, blah. But the Falcons are crying out for another wide receiver right now, and they didn't sign him last week, not even to their practice squad.
Yeah, that is interesting to see. He does bring speed, and John Brown also has the sickle cell trait. I don't know if he has full-blown sickle cell anemia, but he does have sickle cell trait, and he played 2 games in Denver, I think, before that condition was discovered. So that might deter the Broncos from bringing him in. That might deter him from going to the Broncos because that mile-high air, it can be an issue for him. We got Chris Hernandez coming in here. Good morning to you, Chris. Chris says, good morning, MHH fam. Looking forward to hearing about this week's matchup. Thanks for all you do. We'll definitely talk more about this week's matchup. I don't know if it'll be today, just because there's still so much to talk about from the Jets game, everything that's happened, and the KJ Hamler injury. But this Ravens game is going to be a big one. And Broncos got a chance to show the world that they're real, right? Like I've not been impressed with the Ravens. The Chiefs are 1-2, and the Ravens just barely beat the Chiefs. The Ravens got beat by an Oakland team whose wins keep looking flukier and flukier. And that's coming from somebody who supports the Broncos, whose teams they've beaten are 0-9. I understand that, but it's not like the Raiders are out here beating, superstar teams right now. At least that's how it looks on paper.
It's early in the season. Nobody's proven anything at this point. I mean, really, you don't know who's who. And Ken, did I say Jim?
You did say Jim Brown.
I did say Jim. Well, yeah, that shows my age too. But John Brown, obviously John Brown.
Yeah.
Jim Brown was brought in because they really needed a running back, and he's probably the second best running back. No, I'm kidding. John Brown, speedster. But Jim Brown, Yeah, he's definitely in the argument for greatest football player of all time. So Jim Brown.
He's up there. Nice stars, 500. There we go. Automatically in the running for the Justin Simmons jersey with that kind of.
Yeah, Chris is there already.
Yeah, Chris came in.
That was for Chris is way up there on the leaderboard. We appreciate the support.
Chris is on the Mount Rushmore for me. Joseph T. Fisher, good morning, guys. Have a great day. You too, Joseph. DBA, congrats to your Falcons, Scott. That's a big one. We got Andrew Morrow's in the house. Andrew's also always a big supporter. We love you, Andrew. Good morning. Thoughts on our wide receiver pickup and other available options? Kind of got into it a little bit. I'll do a little bit more David Moore. He was, I thought, a solid third wide receiver for the Seahawks out here. However, if he was on a practice squad, that does say a little bit about his ability, right? Like he was a really good wide receiver. He wouldn't be on a practice squad. But also I think there's as much depth in the NFL right now at the wide receiver position as we've seen in decades, thanks air raid, thanks spread offenses. And bringing in David Moore to be your fourth wide receiver that can bring a little bit of vertical ability to your offense and nurse you while you're waiting for Jerry Jeudy to come back. I think that's fine.
You're 3-0 and you're talking, a lot of this talk is about what we expect, not what we've seen, right? Because what are you replacing right now in KJ Hamler? 4 catches, 75 yards.
Yeah.
So it's not much. If you look at it purely as cold, logically, robotically as possible, there's not a lot of production that needs to be replaced yet, but we know what he's capable of. At least we think we do. Yeah. And that's what hurts is a loss there. And plus, like I said, you're dipping into your depth. Now you don't have the depth. You're losing your depth at guard. You're dipping into your depth at corner. Your wide receiver depth has taken a hit. You're still good. You're still good right there with Sutton and Patrick. But now there's nobody behind him. Hopefully Jeudy gets back. And now you're starting to get that depth of target again. Because injuries happen, obviously. I don't have to tell Denver Broncos fans. And, and sometimes guys just have bad matchups or bad days, and it's nice having other go-to type of guys.
No, I agree with you totally. And the Broncos, the only reason that we know that we have depth is because of the injuries we had last year. And we're figuring out again this season. But this is the reason that, somebody like George Payton stacks those day 3 picks, because while maybe you're not getting a bunch of starters out of those guys, you're improving your depth rather than just signing street free agents or undrafted guys. So we'll see how it works out. Diamond Rattler coming in here saying, boom, let's go. Good to see you, Diamond. Pooping Hippo, I'm going to the Ravens game. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to you, Pooping Hippo. Vinny J saying, good morning, Broncos country. On a hike with a husky on a rare, breezy Nevada morning. Sounds beautiful. Also, Vinny answered your question. David Moore, he'd find wide receiver for a 4th or 5th. He's not going to bring what KJ Hamler brought. We should probably bring in the schematically what losing KJ Hamler means for this team, but it's unfortunate. But I like David Moore. He's fine. He's solid. Gary Leeds Palmer, morning all. Good morning. Talking about Mount Rushmore. There's Gary. Love you, Gary. Good to see you. DeAndre also in here. Good morning, guys. Broncos can beat the Ravens. They absolutely can. Justin Tucker. Oh my God. Talking about on a Mount Rushmore. Did you see? That's incredible. 66-yard field goal off the upright. God,
I did see it. It was kind of cool. Taking it a little more personally. It's I told you my last term, my son actually had a slump. He was like, 1 for 8. His home run hit the front of the fence, bounced straight up, back down on top of the fence, and then fell over for a home run. I'm like, sometimes you just need to be a little lucky on that. And 66 yards. And what's crazy, I thought that was one of those. It was tied. If he misses it, he goes to overtime. When I heard about it, I'm like, no, that was let's kick this thing for the win, or we're gonna lose. That's ballsy. Yeah. You almost think like let's heave this thing down, but line it up. You know what? We're gonna give this thing a 66-yard try. That was pretty impressive.
The former special teams coach,
going back to Peter and coming back with more stars. It's the stars are out this morning, probably tonight for Peter. But his last season's draft a bust. Cushenberry playing badly, Jeudy and Hamler having injuries. No, not yet. Yeah. Jeudy has certainly flashed without a doubt. Hamler, we'll see. And I don't call injuries a bust unless you draft a guy with injury history, which you might be able to say about Hamler. And then when did you get him? When he was a 2nd-round pick, correct?
He was a mid-2nd round pick for the Broncos. It's unfortunate. I would not call them a bust. Getting into Hamler, obviously he fell to where he did because of hamstring injuries. Otherwise, he might have gone earlier. He also, this is unfortunate. the injury he suffered, the ACL and other stuff, which makes me concerned. It's also an LCL, which is the same injury that the ACL-LCL combo is the same thing that Robert Griffin suffered that pretty much ended his career as far as like being an athletic, twitchy guy. But KJ Hamler also tore this ACL or injured this ACL his senior year of high school, the same exact knee. So it's a concern going forward. And I want to get into what this could mean for the Broncos this season. I think it's actually a bigger loss than people will make out, given if you just look at KJ Hamler on paper, like with the numbers he's had, the box score, it's like, okay.
If you look at it like a robot, you're like, all right, well, what's the big deal?
Yes, I agree with you there. But KJ Hamler was the only person on this team that I felt was somebody that defensive coordinators had to respect as far as playing the single high versus the two deep and stacking the box, because KJ Hamler on any play, we saw it in preseason. We almost saw it week 1 too. On any play, he can house call it vertically. He can do that also with after the catch, but house call it vertically. And Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, they're great wide receivers, especially down the field, but they're more the slow developing plays down the field. Like they can get down there in a decent hurry, but it's not like KJ Hamler as a sprinter. So you might actually see some issues with the Broncos. We've already seen it in the first 3 weeks as far as teams stacking the box and taking the runaway. I think you're going to see that even more now because the Broncos don't have any speed on the perimeter that teams have to respect.
My phrase, not my phrase, the phrase I always use when I talk about my bias about receivers is I like the big receivers because they're always open.
Yeah.
You're gonna need some help on the corners with Sutton and Patrick. We saw that at the end of the first half on a fade route. Patrick is blanketed, comes up, brings the ball down one-handed. Yeah. Those are the type of matchups you like. We've seen good quarterback receiver combos make a living off of, okay, I see single coverage on my guy, 3-step drop and just, lob it. And my guy's going to beat your guy because he's better. So I don't know that it's just the speed alone that will dictate, the safety play. A lot of it's going to be about, can Sutton and Patrick make those catches if they're singled up? I think they can. I think you're okay there.
Yeah. No, that's it's just a bummer because
it sucks. It still sucks. Yeah. there's no way about it, and can you put someone like Deontay Spencer in there who's athletic enough to be a return man
you just know he's a decoy though. Is he capable enough to run right up the seam and put some fear into those safeties that you get some respect out of it? Or is he not? I think he can catch the ball, goodness sake, because he's returning kicks. I think he has issues from what I've seen, especially in preseason. And I think that he really got a chance to make a play. It was the Browns game 2 years ago when the Broncos, I think they had injuries and they put him out there. He's not very natural tracking the football down the field. He doesn't have great hands. He's okay with the punts and the kicks, but as an actual receiver, there's not much nuance there. And just never really took it there. He's also a little bit older for a wide receiver too, so I don't know how much actually you're going to add on to him as he grows. But
yeah, well, you're not looking for growth right now out of that position. For a replacement for KJ Hamler, you're looking for some production because you're 3-0 and you want to make a playoff run. Yeah.
Gary Leeds Palmer, where are your Broncos for breakfast hats and tees, guys? Support for our guys. Go Broncos, beat Ravens. I don't know if you're talking to us. Mine should be in the mail. It comes when it comes. We need some Broncos for breakfast mugs.
I need to get on it. I need to get on it for sure. My orders typically go to baseball and softball bats. I've told you I have a coffee problem and a bat problem. Those are my two right now. So I need to get on that for sure because it's our way of helping to support the show that you guys are helping us do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you there. I need to get that hat needs to get in here. It's a good looking hat too. So, and also it's black, so it goes with everything. And I've been wearing a lot of Iowa.
I'm worried about what a hat would do for my lights.
Oh,
so I'm not going to turn it around backwards. So that one, I might need some branding back here.
No, that would be, we need the Broncos for breakfast mugs. That would be a great way to go. Broncos for breakfast griddle. There we go. It really does. And it hurts the Broncos, I think, schematically because spacing is the biggest thing for me. We've already seen teams have been stacking the box a decent rate. The Broncos, I think, they're in the top 5 as far as facing stacked boxes. And so far, Teddy has made opposing offenses pay and I think he will continue to do that. But now I think it's going to be even harder for the Broncos to run the football consistently because there's going to be more resources, defensive resources allocated to the box, probably. And the Broncos, I think their rush success rate is like 26th in the NFL. So they're not really getting it done on the ground from a down-to-down basis, and I think that gets harder. Also, I think the pass game gets harder. You're going to see more bodies at the second level rather than that last third of the field now that KJ Hamler is going to be off the field. Now, if teams are, playing more single high or cover zero, so help them God, and you have a one-on-one matchup with Tim Patrick or Cortland Sutton, chuck it. Just that's
just put it up there. Throw
same
lob
thing.
one up.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. Let's see. I'm gonna get in some trouble here with some of the folks in the chat, but I don't care.
Careful.
I care, but we're not always going to agree. And the phrase "hospital ball" on that throw that Teddy threw is misused.
Yeah,
hospital ball is leading a receiver into a big hit. A lob is not hospital ball. That was unlucky. You go up and you come down on your knee and you twist it, and that's bad. That's part of it. That is like blaming a shooter for shooting a 3-pointer and the rebounder goes up for the ball and comes down and tears up a knee.
You should have made it.
Almost the exact same scenario. That's not a hospital ball. That's not what a hospital ball is. A hospital balls and basically hospital balls are basically illegal these days. You can't hit a guy when you're lobbing it over the middle and leading him into a linebacker or a safety. Those are hospital balls. Throwing a jump ball up for somebody, it's a dangerous pass. Don't get me wrong, unless it's 1v1. That was a dangerous pass and it was not a good pass, but that's not a hospital ball. That's not what that is.
Yeah, and I do think there is some nuance that could be added there as far as a guy with a stronger arm. Maybe there's less likely that player is going to get hit because the defense is not going to get there in time. And you see there's a little bit more of a lollipop with Teddy Bridgewater getting there. But
Teddy doesn't throw them. Everybody throws them, and somebody with less arm strength is going to throw more than others. I'm just saying that was not a hospital ball. That's a jump ball. Jump balls are not hospital balls. Leading a receiver into a guy who's about to take your head off, that's a hospital ball.
And that's a hole shot, right? Like that looked like it was a cover 2 look off the top of my head. You have to be able to hit it between the cornerback playing the flat and the safety playing the split.
And he was off balance and rolling. He never should have made that throw. He never should have made that throw. But that's not why Hamler got hurt. His throw didn't hurt Hamler. That's not what happened. That was just a freak thing on a jump ball. We're going to stop jumping for, stop contesting balls in the air that are poorly thrown, because you might come down and twist your knee. That's nonsense.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And, just if you're calling that a hospital ball, put on anything that you've seen from Tom Brady the last 5 years, and I can pick out a hospital ball 3 or 4 times a day. Maybe not.
Go watch some Steve Atwater highlights. You'll see what hospital balls look like, because he's going to be on the highlights at the end, putting guys in the hospital. Those are hospital balls. Yeah.
Nope. I agree with you completely there. Not shifting gears, but circling back to KJ Hamler, the injury sucks. I think that the triple coverage jump ball. Yeah. I mean,
absolutely. It's a bad throw. It was a bad throw.
I don't know if it was, triple coverage to me means like there's 3 guys covering the guy. That was a zone coverage, and it was
by the time the ball got there were 3 guys covering that guy.
Yes, exactly. But it was.
And I hate to laugh about it. I'm. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I was sick to my stomach watching that happen. Yeah. So I'm laughing about the. I don't mean to laugh about the injury. The throw was a bad throw. It was a laughably bad throw. It
was a bad decision. We haven't seen many bad throws from Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe that's why it's sticking out a little bit to us. He hasn't made many 0 interceptions so far, but that one stands out. Teddy Bridgewater so far, though, this season, this is absolutely insane. I know they've played not really great defenses yet. Giants defense is solid, but Teddy Bridgewater so far this season, the highest EPA per play of any quarterback in football, expected points averaged, the highest completion percentage over expected. So what is that? That means what your completion percentage actually is versus what the league averages from where you threw the football. Teddy's also the highest in the NFL in that metric as well. And those are 2 of the highest, most important used metrics for analyzing quarterback efficiency. Teddy Bridgewater is playing as good as anybody in the NFL right now at the quarterback position. Can he make the plays that Justin Herbert's making, Patrick Mahomes is making, Aaron Rodgers that leading the Packers down the field to beat the 49ers? No, he can't. But nor could Peyton Manning almost his whole career, nor could the GOAT Tom Brady.
I told you the time I watched Aaron Rodgers hang 50 on the Falcons, if I was playing Madden and someone was making those throws on the run, I would have been pissed. I'm like, what kind of glitch are you using? You cannot throw the ball with that kind of velocity and accuracy running the other direction. It's impossible. Can't do it. Yeah, he could. He could.
And DBA saying Tom Brady has more arm strength at his age now than Teddy. I don't know if that's true. I think Teddy's arm has actually been okay in this game. He's not challenging for a top arm, but I think it's like better than Trevor Simeon's was. And there's some quarterbacks in the NFL who are right there with Teddy, but Teddy's doing a good job protecting the football. And what I've really appreciated about Teddy is his ability in the pocket. The thing that is incredible with him so far, and he's so cerebral in the pocket. He's hanging in there. I think Teddy Bridgewater is like the third highest pressured quarterback in the NFL through 3 weeks, which on the surface looks bad. But a lot of that, I think, is Teddy Bridgewater being really tough, hanging on to the football in that regard, and making sure he goes through all his reads. And I love it that he'll see a guy that he knows he's going to go there. Like, that's my read for sure. Looks at him, he makes sure he sees what he sees, looks off for a second, just holds the defense for a second, comes back to that guy, even if it's an underneath pass, gets him the ball. There's space for that receiver then to do stuff after the catch. And he's done that probably 10, 12 times in the first 3 games, and it's really kept these offenses moving methodically down the field. I couldn't be more impressed with Teddy's play so far.
Well, who did we talk about earlier coming back from an injury saying he looked comfortable? Cortland Sutton, right?
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater looks as comfortable out there and confident out there as any time that we've seen since he was in his first or second year, pre-injury. Yeah. He trusts his body again, and you're seeing what he can do with his legs to extend a play. If you give an NFL receiver an extra 0.3 of a second to get separation, he'll get it. And he's really doing a great job with that. And then if he needs to, he can take off and pick up 10, 15 yards on the run and get a first down. Especially the way that the injury bug is flying around Denver right now. Every time I see a quarterback start to scramble, I hold my breath a little bit. But he can certainly do that. And then looking at the 2 running backs, when you check down and when you dump one off and you get a ball to Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams in space, they're going to turn that into a pretty good play. That's not just, 3 yards here, 4 yards here. That has a chance to go for 15 to 20. And that's a pretty nice option to have too.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you there. They've been good. We'll see if he keep it up. But I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, I put it up on Twitter the other day. He's been the most efficient quarterback in football so far. And he's like 5th in QBR. And I can't even imagine how high his QBR would actually be if the Broncos decided that they wanted to throw the ball in goal-to-go situations rather than handing it off. He's getting
the phrase I've used watching this team is they're like a boa constrictor. They haven't had to take any chances. They haven't had to take any risks. It's like, okay, we'll go down. We'll get our 3 points. It's like you could have more touchdowns, but you also might have interceptions. And you haven't needed to press these teams that you're playing. You're dominating them. Just dominating them. Just squeezing the life out of them. The closest game so far is 10 points, and that was because and the 2 that were within 10 and 14 were both late garbage time scores to make it even that close.
Yep.
So we haven't seen everything from this offense either. They can be a lot more aggressive. You see a little bit in the first half. I think they came out of the gate against the Jets 3 pass plays. 2 pass plays and a play action. 1, 2, 3. Yep. Once they get a stranglehold on this game, then it starts slowing down a little bit. It's like we can run the ball, run the clock, kick a field goal. 126. What was it? 26? Because I had 27 in my head because I picked it like 27-10.
It was 26-0. Yep.
26-0.
And they left 7 points on the field. It was 1st and goal from the New York Jets 3, and Javonte Williams fumbles the football. So it would have been more. That's the second time the Broncos have been close to scoring a touchdown and they fumbled the ball away. And it really sucks to be making mistakes out there, but your team making mistakes that are coachable for you to improve and still getting wins like the Broncos are, that's a coach's dream, right? Like, we have things, it's not like I have nothing really to nitpick on. Like, you're making mistakes out there. Noah Fant, bad game. I'm wearing my Hawkeye sweater. It's hard for me to say. But Noah Fant, bad game. Multiple penalties, didn't do the best. I thought his body language wasn't even the best. And he's going to have to be better. So, that's coachable things that you can improve upon there. So we'll see. And I wanted to circle back real quick to Teddy Bridgewater here. This is a moment that happened after the game, and I don't want to go too far down the specifics of like the message here, but hopefully you guys can see that. If not, I know Scott and I can't, but maybe you guys can on your screen because we have the chat going and everything there. But I'll read it. So Justin Simmons after the game just wanted to share his story. This was on his Instagram. He said, "I have a small story to share from Sunday's game. After the game, home or away, a group of players from both teams come together, saying a prayer at midfield. It's my favorite thing about the game day on Sunday, giving thanks and praise to God, win or lose. Well, after the game was over and I was asked to do an interview talking about the big win. Once the interview was over, I immediately looked behind me towards the 50-yard line, nervous that I had missed the prayer, and I did. However, Teddy was there waiting and told me, 'Jay, I got you, man. I know you didn't want to miss this,' and started praying. There's a reason God brings people in your life depending on what season of life you're in. Teddy didn't know. I never told him, but I needed that prayer. I share this story as a reminder God is always with you. His timing is perfect, and resting in that is fulfilling. God bless you all." So, I mean, say what you will. I'm not here to talk religion. That's not my department at all. But Teddy being there, the emotional intelligence.
No, it's support.
Yes.
It's support.
Yes.
And and you guys know, we've all seen the people that do what appears to be selfless acts, but it's really to just draw attention to themselves. Everybody come in, let's come in, rah, rah, rah. And whether it's a prayer, whether it's a pep talk, whatever, it's a very egotistical thing. The guy staying behind for a one-on-one because he knows you don't want to miss it, that's real.
Yeah.
Teddy's real. And everybody there knows it. And that's important.
Yeah. No, Teddy, you talked about it, him being the Pied Piper, and just the emotional intelligence that he has for the team. I mean, you hear the teammates talk about him, man. They love
the guy.
They love Teddy.
I've loved him since he was 16 years old that I first watched him play. He's just always been, we call it it. Who's got the it factor? Teddy Bridgewater's got that. It's one of those guys that you look, football's just, it's a short window in his life. I want to see Teddy Bridgewater what's he going to do beyond it? Because he can do so many things beyond football. He's just one of those type of people.
Teddy Bridgewater for president. You guys heard it here. Teddy 2 gloves, 2 terms. Teddy 2 terms. That's even better. Teddy 2 terms.
My vote. He's too good a person to be in politics, though.
Yeah, probably. But man, if you're pulling against Teddy at this point because of, I don't know, whatever's going on in your life, yeah, I think you need to look in the mirror because he literally is one of the good ones. Kareem coming in here. Kareem, good to see you, buddy. He says most underappreciated Bronco through 3 weeks, 1 offensive player and 1 defensive player. Most underappreciated Broncos. See, that's hard for us to say because I feel like we talk about all of them. We talk all the time.
Yeah, we talk about all of them. It's hard. It's kind of our job to call out the guys that are underappreciated, that other people don't see, that do things like that. So it's really tough because if we name somebody, we've probably already talked about them in this pod, let alone over the past week.
I'll throw one out for offense first, and I'm racking my brain about defense, but this is not just this season. This is almost his whole career, and that's Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon was brought to Denver in weird circumstances because, especially with the fandom, because this fan base was in love with Philip Lindsay. And I get it. Undrafted free agent, close from Colorado, local kid, et cetera, and the Broncos are gearing up. He's getting paid very little, and the Broncos then go out there and disrespect him and pay Melvin Gordon. So he's already kind of like, in the crosshairs of the fans. And he was pretty solid last year other than the fumbles, which is a big issue. And then this season, the Broncos go out there and trade up for Javonte Williams, who we like. And it's like, okay, well, now we're replacing Melvin Gordon. Put him aside. Well, how soon can we play Javonte Williams? And Javonte Williams was not good versus the Jets. Gordon had a really good game. So I'm going to go with underappreciated, and it's just because a lot of circumstances surrounding him. Melvin Gordon's been really good, and I think he deserves a little bit of just an open mind from the Broncos fans because he's been a solid player, and you need him. This team needs him to be good, and he has been good.
All right, how about for this week? How about Tom McMahon? How about How about the special teams units? When I started watching the game, I started charting the special teams plays just to see how they went. First punt inside the 10, good. Kickoff through the end zone, field goal, kickoff through the end zone. A punt, fair catch on the 6. That one was a little questionable.
Yeah.
The second punt was the second punt the Broncos had was a 53-yard net where your punter literally has a shadow of his goalposts. He's standing between them. 3 and out. The next play, they picked up 25 net yards on the punting units because it went 3 and out, and then they punted real short. So at the end of I think this was at the end of the half. They got the taunting penalty, so they kicked off from the 20. He still kicked it to the goal line. Coverage held him to the 28. That's not bad. And then a penalty knocked him back to the 12. So special teams was a win. Was a win for the Broncos this week.
Yep. I agree with you there. One defensive player, and this is somebody that I'm putting it on you guys, specifically the Broncos for Breakfast community, and I'll call it out maybe again another time. He's not underrated for us, but from a national perspective, people are like, who? And I think he has an argument for being the Broncos' best player on the field 2 of the 3 games so far. Draymond Jones. Draymond Jones was an absolute menace again this week. He was phenomenal. That play where he beat up Connor McGovern and he almost like took the ball from the quarterback as the handoff was happening. It was that quick. He's also, despite being a smaller interior defensive lineman, been phenomenal against the run so far. And it's not that, we think Draymond Jones is underrated, but if you went up to even somebody who really knew the NFL pretty well, maybe not somebody who followed the draft, but somebody who really knew the NFL, and you're like, oh man, Draymond Jones has been good. 9 out of 10 of those guys are going to be like, or gals are going to be like, who? Draymond who? And that's a travesty because he's been phenomenal so far. So he's playing at a Pro Bowl level, no doubt about it. So I think it's on Broncos country to really get Draymond Jones's name out there because he's been playing that good. He is underappreciated, not only from I think the fans as well, but definitely from a national perspective. He's good.
And for this week, I thought Mike Purcell played well. So for underappreciated for this week, I might say Mike Purcell. I thought he had a really good game. Tony, relatively new name. I see a lot of the names, and I don't remember seeing you here before. I could be wrong. Because I feel like I recognize the kid.
It's a cute kid.
in the avatar. So certainly appreciate the stars you come in, and we love you too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tony. But Broncos fans, it's on you guys. Draymond Jones, we got to get that hype up there. He has been really good. Somebody was at me on Twitter the other day that Draymond Jones has been silent. He was disappointing in the Jacksonville game. I don't know what happened there. You wanted to see more of him in that game, but week 1 and week 3, phenomenal. I think he had over 90 grade in both those games.
Again, you give me a small enough sample size, I can prove any point you want. Any point. Well, he wasn't there in the Jacksonville game. Well, what did Jacksonville do? Maybe they saw him and, these guys get paid a lot as well. And they saw what we saw in week 1, which was the right side of that offensive line of the Jacks was getting killed. They got killed in the first game. I'm like, oh my God, Draymond Jones and Von Miller are going to murder their quarterback. Well, not murder, just hurt him really badly. And so they have to do some different things in order to make sure that they give some protection to the right side of their offensive line, because that's the strength of the defensive front of the Denver Broncos. So they have to scheme against it. So whatever they did, it worked. But unless you've got talent across the board, it means you're giving up something else. And the Broncos are good enough on defense. If Draymond's quiet, it probably means somebody else had a pretty good game, because Draymond's just a player just to get shut down. So again, small sample size, Jaguars, he was quiet. I'm gonna give credit to the Jaguars for that, knowing that they had to have seen what we saw after week 1, which is the right side of their offensive line was a mess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You are correct in that. They probably really allocated some resources. Also, maybe the Broncos did something schematically in that game where Draymond wasn't able to pin his ears back as much. Not sure, but Draymond's been great in 2 games so far, like really great. And we should appreciate that and make sure that people are paying attention because he's been great. So unfortunately, I want to pivot one more time back to KJ Hamler, and I want to discuss the ACL injury and some other stuff. Guys, I think given that the second time that he's had an ACL injury on that same knee, I think it was his left knee, but don't quote me on that one. I don't know what we're going to see from KJ Hamler next season. This could easily be not just 12 months. This could be like a 16, 18 month recovery, which means that we're really not seeing KJ Hamler, if ever again. Like we'll see, but like, I don't think we should expect him next year as well. And that might, at least fully healthy, we might see him towards the end of the next season. And I think that might shift your needs heading into the draft and free agency this year, where that dynamic speed receiver that can take the top off the defense has now been pushed up the draft board because you need somebody that can decompress the field. Well,
and not only is it more of a need, I think you could take a receiver in the first, in the middle rounds every year. It's just that important that you need 6 receivers over the course of a season. that you could probably take one in rounds 3, 4, and 5 every single year. Now it starts to question, okay, do we need to move that up a little bit? So yeah, we plan on taking maybe one in the 4th round. I like this guy. Well, maybe now I need to move up to 2nd or 3rd round to try and do that. There might be bigger questions. There's a lot. What's Sutton do? What's Tim Patrick do? How bad is it for Hamler? How does Judy come back? And I still look at the Broncos, and I'm like, your wide receiver core is still better than most. It's still better than most. You really need 2 guys to step up at the receiver position. You still have 2+ receivers. Like I said, though, it's the depth that starts getting a little bit scary now.
Yeah, but more so, I'm just talking more so team building, and I'm very much a proponent of building your wide receiver core like a basketball team. You need your big guys, and you need your small, quick guys, and you need your full court runner types. And, right now when Judy comes back, that's kind of the quicker guy who's really dynamic after the catch. Obviously can uncover really quickly, and hopefully that ankle isn't really hindering him. But losing KJ, his ability in the short pass game and down the field is going to hurt the offense schematically. And they're going to need to look for some dynamic players in the pass game, because in today's NFL, with how much spacing you get and how these guys are not allowed to touch receivers so much, you need those guys who can stretch the field and create big plays and be coverage dictators. And without KJ Hamler out there, you don't really have that guy. So it's definitely something that's probably moved up the draft board. We should hopefully know more when April comes with KJ Hamler's knee, like how the surgery went, what the long-term prognosis looks like. I'm not expecting him to be much of a impact player, unfortunately, until maybe halfway through next season, given it's the other stuff there, and I'm thinking it's the LCL. But it just kind of changes the dynamic of this team. And obviously you look at this roster heading into the season, like, we're pretty stacked everywhere besides quarterback. Maybe you go tackle, maybe you go edge rusher, blah, blah, blah. The wide receivers probably rocketing up the board now, not only because Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, but now you have the KJ Hamler information as well. So that's why you play a full season, and you don't pin yourself to one single position. Let the draft board fall to you and be open to it. But wide receiver, I think, is definitely up there.
Well, and it's also why we said going in, would you trade this guy or trade that guy or trade this guy or trade that guy? No, no, not for what you could get for him right now. Use your depth. This is a team that wants to challenge for the playoffs and make a run this year. You don't trade away depth for draft capital right now. When you start 0-3, now you start thinking about it. But you're 3-0. You need every player you can get.
Yep. And there's a lot of Lamar Jackson conversation in the chat right now. We'll get to that, guys, on Thursday. We're going to have probably a full episode talking about Baltimore, but it should be a heck of a game. Baltimore has looked definitely beatable so far. One of the few teams that's probably been beat up as badly, if not worse, than the Broncos. But Baltimore will be a very tough test. I'm very glad that the game is in Denver, I believe, off the top of my head. So that'll be great for the Broncos because, man, that home crowd is rocking. I think they're going to be rocking again. It was just absolutely insane there. So I'm really jealous of everybody who got to go, especially to that Mile High Huddle tailgate as well. That's a big one. Coming back again, though, to the Jets, what were your key takeaways? We've been talking a lot about KJ Hamler, Teddy Bridgewater, et cetera, et cetera. How much could you actually take away from how dominant that Broncos game was? And even like the 3-0 start versus 0-9 teams, they're the butt of every joke right now.
Well,
not every joke.
The Jets, you start. I felt the same way when I watched Trevor Lawrence in week 1. The receivers got to help your young quarterbacks. You're so good at receiver that you're not used to. Say maybe you got used to it last year with Judy, but making drops. But those guys there were several drops that would have extended drives, that catches that have to be made, and they're not. You got a rookie quarterback who's got the propensity for taking risks anyway. And if you're dropping passes, you know what? This guy's open, but my guy's a little more covered, but he caught it last time. I'm going to take more of a risk. It's bad news. So you see what they're trying to do, and you see the talent out there. And, again, I use the phrase fine margins. There's such fine margins. Whether it's a delay a game penalty on a field goal, how the hell does that happen? Now you're punting instead of 10-3. Now it's 10-0, and you're giving the ball back to Teddy Bridgewater because you got a penalty, a delay a game penalty on a field goal, and that can't happen. So making some of those catches to extend drives, making plays that should be made, it was what separates the good teams from the New York teams. I watched the Giants. I've seen them twice now. I watched them against the Broncos and I watched them against the Falcons. They're better top to bottom than the Atlanta Falcons. But God, dog, do they make mistakes. They made so many mistakes out there that were just game killers. They were better across the board, except for stupid plays. The Jets, they're not as bad as Denver made them look, but maybe they are because they're not making the plays they should. They're getting penalties when they shouldn't. And again, for me, it's the receiver. You got to help your young quarterbacks. I've seen it happen with Trevor Lawrence now. Scouting the Jaguars before you played them. Seen it with the Jets when you did play them this week, and the receivers are dropping way too many passes for rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I would say my big take. Oh, we got Malcolm coming in. Name 2 Ravens that should be Broncos. I will take. Adafe Owe. Of course, there you go. There's one. He's been God. Oh, he didn't have a sack at Penn State, guys. Sacks are highly volatile. Pressures, quarterback hits, those are extremely predictive. And Adafe Owe, or Jason Owe, as he went by in Penn State. If you guys don't remember, he's now Adafe, which is his real name. He's been phenomenal. I think he was Defensive Player of the Week last week as well. So that's one. Yeah, he was. AFC, maybe NFL.
Oh, I like it when these guys make me look good. The problem is not enough people listen to me to remember.
I remember we were vibing on Owe. That was one of our first sharing a brain. But Owe has been phenomenal. He looks like he's going to be, and so has Micah Parsons at edge. I think he's still a little bit not the best processor at off ball. I really hope they don't move him from edge to off ball. I also love the combination of maybe it's the 2013 Seattle defense, but when you kind of have that more bigger body edge guy and then the stand-up 2-point guy, the Leo, right? And Parsons, if you can do that with Dexter Lawrence, I think that Dallas pass rush could actually be pretty fun. So that's one that just talking about Penn State defensive players, a couple freak athletes there. Always been great. I know we have Garrett Bowles, but Ronnie Stanley might be the second best left tackle in football, and he's such a value position that I want to lean him. I mean, the real answer, of course, is Lamar Jackson. As good as Teddy Bridgewater has been, Lamar is such a young, dynamic player and he's so valuable at quarterback that he's probably the real one. But I'm putting quarterback in a box there, so I guess I'll go Ronnie Stanley and Owe. Yeah.
Lamar was too easy. You'd take Lamar in a heartbeat.
Yeah. The other one that probably deserves a shout out is Marlon Humphrey, probably one of the better cornerbacks in football. And
another Alabama guy.
Yeah, another Alabama guy. A lot was made about him. Alabama kind of does a weird like shuffle technique. At least they used to do so, where they'd kind of turn inside. It's not the pure like drop back, I guess, from the cornerback position where they'd kind of turn and face. That I remember that was a big thing. Oh, he doesn't play the technique that they're going to ask him to play in the NFL. He's a great athlete. He's smart. He tackles. He's long. He's big. He's an Olympic or a junior Olympic hurdler or 100-meter sprinter as well. One of those things for Marlon Humphrey. He's the other one who sticks out to me. Can never have enough good cornerbacks.
Ben Cleveland is Quinn Miners plus. I don't know if he's as durable as him. That's the problem. But Ben Cleveland is a middle South Georgia country boy who lifts tractors and stuff. So at guard, I'll be interested to see how his career develops. He just because of his size, he was that big at like 14, 360 pounds or something. I mean, just a massive human being, but has had trouble staying healthy. It'll be interesting to see how he develops. But, I am very curious to watch Adafe's career progression because I said it and it sounds like hyperbole, but the numbers back me up. The minute he put on a helmet, he was one of the 10 best athletes in the NFL. And that's just insane.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably one of the top 100 athletes in the world, like that kind of level of person, maybe 50, just a freak, height, weight, speed. I guess the question also, Malcolm says, what name 2 Ravens that should be Broncos? I was always a big Derek Wolfe fan. He went over to the Ravens, but maybe he should still be a Bronco. He's been great. Broncos are fine at the defensive line, but I do love Derek Wolfe. And also the other one, Broncos had him. And because of this is what I was told, but because of his wife, he didn't sign with Denver. I think she wanted to live somewhere warmer, and also the no state income tax. Calais Campbell, so close to signing with Denver. His wife and the Florida state laws, I think, pushed him to Jacksonville. which is unfortunate. And now he's traded to the Ravens and has been phenomenal. I love Calais Campbell, been one of my favorite players since he entered the league. Yeah, I think he was a 2nd-round pick. How stupid is that? He was incredible at Miami. What a freak. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I was just thinking, state taxes. I'm like, I bet he's got some state taxes in Baltimore, Maryland now.
Yeah, probably. But the signing bonus, that big front was all Jacksonville. So
I don't know. He's close enough to Washington that there's enough loopholes for people with money that they can wheel and deal their way out of that. So
yeah,
but we won't talk politics.
Man, we're towing some dangerous lines today, talking religion with Teddy or Justin Simmons thing and politics now. But we'll back up for just a second. Any other takeaways so far from this? Oh yeah, what I wanted to say: the Broncos are 3-0. Yes, that's true. They've played 3 teams that are 0-9. Guys, I don't think it can be understated how badly the Broncos beat these teams. And also these games, if you look at the score, they are not as close as should be. If you look at the actual, the stats, the EPA per play, total yardage, whatever, Broncos should have won these games by more. I don't know if you follow baseball, the Pythagorean record that you're supposed to have, which goes based on your point differential and
run differential.
Yep. And the Dodgers should have 108 wins this year, and they only have 98, whatever weird noise going on there. I think the Broncos right now, they've left so many points on the field so far this season with penalties, turnovers, and in the goal to go situations. Those are ones that are off the field. And also they've given up fluky touchdowns that should have been better as well. So they've touched the kickoff return touchdown, the big one with it was the Daniel Jones touchdown as well. So Broncos should have beaten these teams even more than they did. So that's what good teams do against bad teams, and it should be better.
Well, and as EJ says, the NFL still doesn't respect the Broncos because we haven't beaten any good teams yet.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing about the NFL is it doesn't matter. And this is just on because you're right. There's not a lot of respect. I look at power rankings and the Broncos are still in the teens, but this isn't talking about a college poll. If you keep winning, you win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Respect is nothing. That's about fans' egos. It has absolutely no bearing on what happens on the field or how the season plays out. That's the good part. Yep. So the fact that I say, there's no respect, my question is, so what?
Yeah.
Go take care of business. Who are you supposed to beat? You're 3-0. You beat the hell out of the 3 teams in front of you. What were you supposed to do? Maybe I'd get more respect if we played them closer.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You had 3 weak teams. You beat the hell out of them. All right, who's next? And you keep winning. Respect doesn't matter. You'll get your respect eventually. That's how the season works.
Yeah, this isn't college football where it is a beauty contest as well, right? It's not just that you have to win. You have to win pretty against teams that you're better than. Every single win counts the exact same in the standings in the stat column. So you got to lean into it. And the Broncos are 3-0. They're very dinged up right now, but they're in as good of a spot as anybody could have hoped. Record-wise, Teddy's playing great. You hope that these guys come back, but healthy, but we'll see. Before we get on out of here, any concerns now that we're taking a 100 yards above the field type of look? Any concerns coming out of these 3 games?
We kind of said that the running game would be better against the Jets just because their interior line isn't as good. It was. There's still some concern there. And if you're not concerned about the injuries right now, then you're not paying attention. It's like I said, it's almost like we're watching a horror movie right now where you're on a vacation and everybody's super happy because you're 3-0 and it's great. But wait, where'd Jill go? What happened to Dexter? He's gone now too. People are just disappearing and it's got to stop. It has to. Some of these players will start coming back, and you're not so worried about the ankle sprains or, those type of things, but there's been 2 devastating injuries in the last 2 weeks that have taken 2 starters out of the lineup. And that stuff's got to stop.
Yep. That's the biggest one for me is the injuries as well, but specifically to the interior offensive line. I mean, I know we've been critical and rightfully so of the combination of Dalton Reisner, Lloyd Cushenberry, and Graham Glasgow. And now that we've saw Quinn Miners out there and Natane Moody, who graded really well for Pro Football Focus again. But that trio right now, they've already been probably one of the more inconsistent units for the Broncos so far this season. And now that you're relying on the depth there, it's going to be it's going to be concerning. And I know Dalton Reisner was in a boot yesterday. I think Graham Glasgow is fine, which is great to hear. But Reisner might not be playing this week, so you might see Natane Moody at left guard instead. But it's going to be interesting to watch that. And because that interior offensive line, it's just the run game has not been as consistent as you'd like to see from a down-to-down basis. They haven't been efficient, which is what you're looking for. It's not about the volume stats for running games. It's about efficiency, and we have not gotten there yet. So hopefully that'll improve as the season continues. But that's probably my biggest concern. Teddy Bridgewater's playing out of his mind right now. If he continues this level of play, even though he's not getting touchdowns like he should be in the MVP conversation, that's how good he's been. We should expect some regression, right? He's not going to probably end up the highest EPA per play, CPOE quarterback in the NFL. He might end up top 10 to 12, which is pretty much what you need for this roster as long as they don't keep, forming a mash unit. But the run game is going to have to step up. The run blocking is going to have to step up because it can't constantly be the pass game with Teddy Bridgewater to win, especially when the weather starts to get a little worse.
Yeah, and you've seen it already. The way Teddy's playing, it's going to open up more running lanes. And Peter Middle says, don't forget, call out for Javonte Williams getting his first touchdown interception for Stearns. Absolutely. Appreciate you, Peter. And Michael, checking in today. Great show today on Broncos for Breakfast. Thanks for checking in, Michael. Appreciate you being here as always.
Yeah.
Concerns, I don't know. I haven't watched. For me, the Ravens are like a mystique. They're like a name. I'm like, well, of course they're going to be good on defense, and Lamar Jackson's going to run the ball. You're so good on the edges right now that Lamar Jackson schematically doesn't scare me as much as he might, but he's got that X factor where he can do stuff that you just can't scheme against. He's just, he's that good. The safeties, Kareem Jackson loves to crash forward, and I love him for it. But you've got to be a little more disciplined and be willing to give up a 6 or 7 yard scramble, because Lamar Jackson can flick his wrist and throw the ball 65 yards. So if he's scrambling, you better stick with your guys. So Lamar Jackson is obviously the biggest concern here. And if he gets to the 40, his own 40, he's in field goal range. That's a concern.
God. Oh, man. But Broncos so far, amazing red zone defense. Hopefully that'll continue. But guys, we got to get out of here. This Thursday, we're going to definitely talk some Ravens. I know there's been a lot of Lamar Jackson talk here. I need to go back and watch that Ravens-Lions game, as much as that sounds a little bit painful to me, watching the Lions play football. But we have to scout the Ravens and see what they're doing. And also, man, they're very close to being 0-3 this season. So it's going to be interesting to see that game. Maybe a little bit of a paper tiger, but we'll see. Oh, we also got a stars coming here from Claude Riley saying, go Broncos. Thank you so much, Claude. We appreciate that so much. It means a lot to us. Shout out to all of our super chat superstar people that came in today. Dave Glassman, Peter Middleton, John D. Herrera, Tony Bernard, Gary Leeds Palmer, Chris Hernandez, Malcolm Brown, Claude Riley, Michael Ronquillo as well, I believe, came in with stars as well. So we appreciate all you guys.
And if we missed you, I apologize. Hopefully we didn't miss you during the show. We'll come back and make sure we get you a call out later. Thank you very much.
Yeah, guys, make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Follow us also at Huddle Up Pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. If you're on Facebook today joining us, make sure you also go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle or facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Join us there. If you're on YouTube today and you're not in a position to contribute to the show financially, that's okay. Something you can do that's totally free, that's really helpful to us. Subscribe, like, and share. Not only do that to this channel, but also make sure you're going to Scott's channel, subscribing, liking, and sharing at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. And Scott will be over there tomorrow, and I will see you guys tonight. Scott will be there too, working in the background, but we got some building the Broncos tonight. It's
coming in tonight too?
No, it's you and me. It's
okay.
You
I was like, it's been us until Carl gets back.
It's us.
So I think, if you didn't get enough of us this morning, we'll be back for dinner.
Broncos for dinner. There we go. But yeah, no, guys, we will see you tonight. Carl is still in the Dominican. He's not sure how much longer he is going to be there. So we'll continue to be at Scott and I on Tuesday nights, and it'll be good. And then we'll be Wednesday morning as well, and then Thursday morning as well. So a lot of football talk. You guys, obviously, thank you so much for joining the chat. Scott, what do you got going the rest of the day?
It's Champions League day.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't looked to see what the slate of games is, but for middle of the afternoon, just to have a game on in the background, if you're not a baseball guy, having the football on is really nice. So Champions League Day, dude, that's where that's probably my favorite competition in sports, and maybe of all time. I mean, I know a lot of people like March Madness and stuff, but this is very similar to something like almost like a college football playoffs, except for football around the world. So that's probably what I'll be doing. And then, the kids get home and I gotta be bus driver to kids sports.
No, absolutely. Well, guys, we'll see you tonight. Everyone stay safe between then, get some work done, and we'll see you at 6:00 Mountain Time for building the Broncos. Until then, go Broncos.
Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos.